Autocracy is contagious. It's one of those things that stop me in my tracks because, of course, it is so true. And no one knows that better than our very own Vaughn Hilliard. If the autocratic slide around election denialism had a beat reporter, it was Vaughn. He has seen this descent into lies and fiction being willfully and enthusiastically accepted as fact by Trump voters up close and personal on the road for many, many years now. His brand new reporting represents its logical but very dangerous extension. Take a listen.
If Russia did take over Ukraine, would it give you any pause?
I don't have a problem with Russia. I really don't. I have a problem with Ukraine. They're corrupt. I think that people are just ridiculous that they think that Putin's such this enemy. He isn't doing anything. He just wants back what was his.
But he invaded Ukraine, killing thousands of people.
That's fine. That's fine with me.
As a veteran yourself, does it concern you at all that Russian aggression could move even beyond Ukraine?
I don't think Putin's a problem. I think Zelensky's the problem.
Why do you think Putin's not the problem? He's the one that invaded Ukraine and has killed thousands of people.
Because Putin is trying to save his country from the likes of idiots like Zelensky and the elitists.
You know, this administration is trying to start a war with Russia. Russia's not our enemy.
Russia's not our enemy. Wow. It's chilling. It fits in. Those people weren't asking to have their voices altered or talking to Vaughn behind curtains, talking to him on camera. It fits in perfectly and alarmingly with our new series, American Autocracy. It Could Happen Here. We are so lucky that Vaughn has agreed to help us understand how we got here. In the coming weeks, he'll be joining us with his reporter's notebook, his exquisite ability to cut through the noise that happens in studios like this one and help us understand what's actually happening in the country. So we were talking before about how this vote to not provide funding for Ukraine in Washington gets covered as though it is detached from these men and women who love Putin and hate Zelensky. Knit those things back together for us.
Right. I think it's important for folks to understand that while we go to these Trump rallies around the country, engage in these conversations, it's not a matter of whether the U.S. should be engaged either with personnel or with aid in foreign wars. And that's not what the conversation is. It's a matter of whether Vladimir Zelensky is evil or not, or whether Putin is in the right to further move beyond Russia's own borderlines. And this is where it is difficult and complicated because we're talking about the conditioning of his supporters. Ruth Ben-Ghiat and Ian have been so poignant about this here because from 2 years ago when we were first having conversations about the devastating images coming out of Mariupol, right? We're talking about war crimes and where over the last 2 years we have gone after listening to Donald Trump suggest that he would broker some deal between Ukraine and Russia, never flat out condemning Vladimir Putin's aggression here, suggesting just last week that Russia could do whatever the hell they want. Those words have impact on these communities around the country and these folks that we are talking to because it hits at the crux of what the U.S.'s role in the world is as a democracy and whether we are going to be defending other democracies and our allies against the autocrats like Vladimir Putin.
Let me ask you this. Are these people, does it expand to relitigating the Cold War?
This, for them, is, right, it's a matter of what you heard that one man say, what is Russia's? That this is a matter...
But that's what the Cold War, right? I mean, like, do they want the wall back up in Berlin? Do they want to give it all? I mean, how does it, is it that deep or is it a more shallow, reflexive affection for Putin and animosity for Zelensky?
I think largely it is very shallow. This is, you know, when we're talking about Vladimir Putin, right? Tucker Carlson's conversation just 2 weeks ago with Vladimir Putin that went on for more than 2 hours. The number of folks that told me... Still going on,
I heard.
The number of folks that told me that they listened to it and they walked away more sympathetic to Vladimir Putin, that they understood where he was coming from. I mean, Tucker Carlson is somebody who Donald Trump has floated as his vice president. That Don Jr. has said that he would wish for him to be the VP. That's where Donald Trump's words have impact because he is telling folks that this is somebody that you should listen to, that this is a valid voice. And when that valid voice goes over to Russia and talks with Vladimir Putin, you have, therefore, legitimacy in these folks' minds to go back into their communities, talk with their family members, go to their churches, go to their kids' schools, and parrot Russian propaganda. that the U.S. should not be sending our own taxpayer money to Ukraine because it is Ukraine that is evil, that is the one that is corrupt. And this is where it is so tough so often to untangle the lies, the Russian propaganda, and frankly, the conspiracy theories that, again, it doesn't hit at the heart of the normal foreign policy conversation that we as Democrats
Someone
and
here
Republicans
sends you
have.
out to get like sound.
Right.
Let me show some of what you're hearing. Can we play that?
Does Russian aggression concern you that they could? Why not?
Because I watched Tucker Carlson's interview. Putin don't really want to do anything. You know, I think that's old news. I don't really think that he wants to do anything.
Do you think that Russia has ill intent towards the United States?
I don't. No, I don't. After watching the interview with Tucker Carlson, I do not.
What do you do?
To my point exactly, the hardest part about these conversations is this woman otherwise seems like a nice human being. Producer Dan, who is shooting all this video with me, he's been traveling with me since the summer to go and shoot all of these interviews. We have not shown any of them till now here. This one was just last week. But producer Dan, he actually did 5 stints in Ukraine, working with our colleagues over there. For each one of those was a month. And the hardest part for him in conversing with him here is just how separate of a reality that he witnessed with his own eyes. Civilian deaths, and you come back here, and this person, slaughtering, and then a woman like this can go there and with confidence and say that Vladimir Putin is not an enemy, that Russia is not an enemy of democracy, of the United States. We are suddenly at the brink of having a legitimate conversation in our communities that our kids are engaged in on whether Russia, who has slaughtered thousands of people in Ukraine, is in the right or in the wrong.
Oh, my God.
And those are the conversations that are happening in our communities around the country.